Okay, hello again, everybody. Sorry, we're a little bit behind schedule, but only a little bit. That's pretty good. So we've come now to the session that deals with our engagement leads. And as we said at the beginning, our engagement leads are experienced teacher educators and facilitators who work with our small groups, okay, to help them shape their collaborative outputs, their collaboration in general, help to find the right mechanisms and the right platforms, the right means to come together as a group, and to generally work in a way that makes a safe and trusting environment in which our teacher educators in the different groups can collaborate successfully, learn, engage successfully. And we're very happy. We have Doina here with us. We have Nelson and Suzanne and Zhenya, who've been working since the beginning with us, and they're core to this whole undertaking. And Doina's been working with the e-moderators from Sri Lanka. You heard a little bit about their guidebook earlier. And Suzanne, who you can see who's wrapped up nice and warm there on the screen. Suzanne has been working with the LPACT group. So some of the digital posters, for example, that you saw in our previous session are the results of that group's hard work and Suzanne's contributions to that as well. Before moving over to the presentation, is there anything, Doina or Suzanne, you'd like to say?
Nothing, except for the fact that it has been a wonderful experience, and I would repeat it as many times as possible. Although it was, as the ladies have said, it hasn't been easy. But, you know, everything is difficult before being easy. So hopefully you could see that there really is a way when there is a will.
That's fantastic. We should make that some kind of motto, I think, for our future development. Absolutely. Okay, Suzanne, anything from your side that you want to, that's, you know, general?
I just want to say I'm very sort of proud of the LPACT participants. So looking at the presentations I've seen so far. So yeah, I feel like a sort of proud mother today.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay, thanks. So Doina and Suzanne will be able to answer any questions if you'd like to put them in the chat, or put them in the question and answer box, or indeed use the raise your hand option. Okay, then, so we'll move over to the presentation now. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello.
Okay, so here we are to discuss our experience of facilitating on the teacher-educator community. So perhaps we should introduce ourselves first. What do you think? Hi, Suzanne.
Hi. So I'm Suzanne, and I was engagement lead on for LPACT. LPACT was a resource for teacher educators who want to take the ACT certificate. So it was a preparation. It was kind of between a course and also a community, so working together.
And Zhenya?
Hi, everybody. I've been working with the Libyan leaders of communities of practice, COP leaders. And I've been doing it since May. And the goal is to help the educators to lead groups of teachers developing professionally.
And Doina?
I led the beginner moderators in Sri Lanka. There were only 4 of them. We started working together in September, late September. And since they were supposed to deliver their first online course with the Ministry of Education in their country, they felt insecure about what to do, anxious, curious, but insecure. So we decided that we would work on their experience. And out of this work, a guide for other beginner moderators would be our product.
Thanks, Doina. And I'm Nelson, and I'm the engagement lead on the community for facilitators in Egypt and Palestine, facilitating teacher activity groups. So we thought we'd discuss our experience as a panel, in a panel format. And perhaps the first thing that you might be wondering is, what is an engagement lead? And the work that we do. So what do you think in a nutshell would be our duties? What do we do on the community?
I think, first of all, we needed to coagulate a community, which was not an easy thing to do. Because, well, in some parts of the world, they don't have this sense of belonging to a professional community, and I think this is something we still need to work on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. I think it's been, for us as well, it's been a new experience, trying to kind of throw some light on the concept of a community and what it means in terms of professional development for teacher educators, and kind of instilling a culture of reflection, of collaboration, and an open discussion, I think, without a judgment or fear, I think. What about maybe in terms of our support role in the community? What do you think is the main ways that we support the community?
I mean, I think we worked as facilitators, so we're basically, giving people the tools so that they can develop themselves. So I think that's our main role.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get a really close bond with them, a good relationship, so we understand their needs and we can help them, help them facilitate and meet those needs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is different with different groups. I think it must have been a bit more difficult for you who had a bigger group. My group was a group of 4. So it didn't take me as long as it might have taken you to create a bond with the 4 of them.
Yeah, that's true. So I had 26 teacher educators in my community, so that's quite a lot. But I mean, the advantage of having a big group is that they support each other more. There's always somebody there that can help.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And I think that the format being online makes its corrections in terms of how fast this atmosphere can be created, and the channels that we were using. So we'll be talking more about it today.
Yeah, so it's interesting what you say about the size of a community, because we might think that a community is something that is quite large, but Doina's group was smaller. My group was relatively small as well. And the fact that it's small does not mean that it's not a community. So it's something, again, that we are learning as well, that a community doesn't have to be something huge. It can be a small group, as long as they are working together and collaborating and helping each other. It is still a community, isn't it?
Yeah. And I was kind of surprised to see that although my group was a small one, is a small one, it takes some time for them to, gain trust in each other and open up to each other and ask for help or for an advice or for a suggestion. There was still a bit of a sense of competition there that we needed to work with.
Yes, no, that's a good point. And I think that brings us to the next question, which is how do we kind of get across the work that we do and that we expect as well from the community. And this is what we call our statement of approach. Is trying to define how we would like the community to work together. So how did you find it at the beginning when you were establishing the statement of approach? How did you go about informing or getting across that message? What's the work that we want to do together?
I mean, I think the main thing I wanted to get across was the collaborative element, of the community. So one thing I did at the start is set up a buddy system, so they immediately had somebody else to be working with, and I think that sort of really helped. I mean, the buddy system didn't work for everybody, but for some people it really took off, and they worked with their buddy for months. So, and I also tried to, express that, some of the channels I set up, like WhatsApp, it was so that they could continue supporting each other even when I wasn't there. So, sort of let them know that I'm preparing them for what happens, when they're supporting each other as a community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yes, so developing enough trust so that we can work together, perhaps without the facilitator being there all the time. Mm-hmm.
Well, this is something that was kind of difficult at the beginning. I have to admit that I asked them, well, there were only 4 of them, right? So I asked them to work in pairs. And they said, no, we prefer to work as a group. I said, okay, if you prefer that, you can do that. But I realized then that, in fact, they didn't work as a group. They worked as individuals. And they shared what they had worked as individuals in our meetings. So I decided I would push a little bit and set them in pairs so that they know what the other is actually doing and support each other, create a sense of support which is needed among the members of the group.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think perhaps that's something as well that has been new for us is we're not there providing explicit training where the facilitator or the trainer is the lead, as it were. We're not training our community members. What we're expecting is that they work together collaboratively to meet the needs of their local context by the creation of resources or discussion. So professional development happens through exchange rather than through explicit training. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And based on that, understanding the practical needs of the educators in the group was really important, and I think ongoing in what we were discussing, because this is something that we hope they will be doing with the teachers they're working with. And the practical needs analysis is not just a survey to convey, but more about making a bridge between the motivation, the actual professional plans, and the role of the particular project in their professional development.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. So I thought it would be interesting perhaps now to discuss, how do we build this trust with our community members? Do you have any strategies or any tips that you would like to share?
Well, the first thing we need to think of is being patient. We need to be patient. Trust is not something that we can gain like that, so we need to give them time. And what I realized was that their expectations of what all this was about was different from mine. So we needed to sort of negotiate that. They expected me to train them, to tell them what to do, what to expect from the course that they are going to to deliver. And I think they trusted me with all the suggestions and the support they needed. And I told them that I would be there for them, but it was for them to tell me what their needs were. And this is not easy at first, because although they were only 4, they didn't know each other very well. They were trying to sort of build up an image in front of their colleagues and in front of me. And that was something that I needed to work on. But in the end, I think we are getting there.
Yes.
We're getting there, but it needs more time, and we need to be patient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, Doina. It's a professional image, and how vulnerable community members might feel when joining a community for the first time. Did you have anything like this, Zhenya or Suzanne, in your groups where community members might feel a bit vulnerable about sharing their experiences in their work context for the first time?
I think it's on the one hand close to what Doina mentioned about the expectation culturally being that there is an input in the course to be covered. And this project was a discovery for them, because it's not about the input, but the process is actually the learning focus. So instead of expecting an input, we needed to communicate and co-create the ideas. So that was, I think, adjusting the expectations on both sides a little bit. Mm-hmm. And my favorite part is modeling, and I was hoping to do more of that, but again, modeling of the content as opposed to modeling the process. So I think the whole project is more about trying to help them realize how this part is different from the training courses.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think because my community was also a little bit of a mix of a training course as well, so I was somewhere in between. So they were getting input sometimes, but I, also, I mean, we have to be flexible in this role. So I was also getting feedback from them and adjusting, where needed. So I think that's quite important. And also take into account, like all teachers, people are busy. So people have lots of other things going on. Maybe you may need to slow down with them at some point. If they've got an output pending, maybe give them a bit of extra time. Because sometimes it might be better to give them a bit of extra time so that they produce something that's really worthwhile. I mean, if they're producing an output, we want it to be something that they're going to be using or they can share with other people. So, it's worth giving them that extra time, being a bit flexible with that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, perhaps I would have liked to build trust a little bit more by sharing more principles, perhaps, of communities of practice and the theories or the principles that underpin them. So, for example, situated learning or self-determination theory. I mean, all of these are theories that have been researched by leading researchers in the field. And I would perhaps have liked to share this more with my participants to kind of get across that feeling that what we are doing is something that other people are also doing and trying out, and that it has been perhaps shown that they work as long as everyone understands how the community works and put in their part of the work. Did you have a chance to share some of these principles with community members?
Yeah, I insisted on experiential learning, and they were going to experience something very new to them. And I realized, but I don't think they realized that at first, that there was going to be a roller coaster of emotions that accompanied their focus on what am I going to do? So that was their concern. What? And they wanted me to tell them what to do. And we had to work on that and on reflecting on their experiences after each module or each live session, and so on. And I think that it was important, and this is this built towards a trust, a more solid trust between them and me, that they needed to realize that they need to reflect on what they are living during delivering the while delivering the course, and share that with me and with their colleagues so that we can talk about that. So this is what was my focus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I was going to say I think I was quite lucky on my course because I had people from people from 4 different countries, and so they were naturally quite interested in each other's work. So you know, as far as the social interaction and discussion, it was really well with my cohort.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I did use a lot of scaffolded problem solving with them, so you know, giving them some support, but then letting them go on their own and you know do things and support each other. So that, I mean, definitely, I mentioned before the buddy system that worked really well. So they were, every week they would have a task to do, and then they would share their task on an online folder, and then their buddy or even another colleague could go in and leave a comment. So they're kind of, that's probably a new experience for a lot of them. They're leaving themselves open to somebody that they don't really know to come in and you know make a comment on their work, not just a tutor of some kind, but also their peers.
That's right. Mm-hmm. I think, you know, if I had the chance of doing this again, I would perhaps, you know, make this a little bit more explicit. We did discuss it kind of on an informal basis, but I would like to maybe, you know, share this research with community members a little bit more explicitly, and then hopefully get them to discuss some of these topics in the forums. And I think that perhaps would help us overcome some of the challenges that we had in the community. So, for example, one of them was the cart without a horse metaphor, where perhaps I thought that, you know, my community members, and I think, Doina, you were saying this before, were expecting, you know, the facilitator or the engagement lead to pull the cart and to tell them what to do and how to do it. And perhaps it should come, you know, from the cart itself, you know, deciding what needs to be done, because they are the ones who know the context better, and they are the ones who know what their needs are. So getting them to take the initiative. What about you? Did you encounter any other challenges with your groups? Zhenya?
Yeah, I'm looking at the image of the cabinet files and shelves with different little details. So in our group, during the needs analysis and conversations about motivation, the highlight was that, oh, we are so busy as teachers. We have so many projects to tackle, and so we don't really have the time to be focusing on running a community of practice group, for example, or doing something on the course. And we were analyzing those little challenges and thought that, first of all, the teachers in this context would have similar challenges too. And we were also focusing on some solutions, how to tackle this. And that's something the group is presenting later in the event.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was lucky in this respect because the 4 members of the community I led never complained about having too much work to do. The only problem was the time for our meetings. So because they worked at different times of the day, so it was quite a challenge to find the right time and the right day for us to meet. That was all.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Did you also have any difficulties with perhaps kind of leaving things for later? rather than kind of taking action as soon as possible. Because I felt that sometimes work was kind of delayed. I mean, legitimately because of, other commitments. But I had the feeling that sometimes it was kind of left till very last minute. And I'm sure this is as relevant for a community as for a course, that if we want to move together, then we do have to kind of respect deadlines, and we have to move according to a time scale, so as to achieve the aims that we want to achieve more effectively. Did you have any issues like that? You're on mute, Suzanne.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I found that some people, they were a little bit behind, and various reasons. Some people maybe didn't log on for a week or so, and then they would join an old discussion, and actually we'd moved on. Or, I'd set tasks, and then people weeks later would send me the tasks. So that was definitely a problem, yeah, of sort of people sticking to the sort of timetable. And I guess, when people are busy, they have so many other things going on, they maybe don't feel that they want to follow a strict timetable. And it shows there, where's your certificate? I mean, if it's something that is, it's a learning opportunity, but you're not necessarily getting a certificate for it, it's not a qualification, then people might not feel as motivated to meet deadlines. And I think this is sort of a bit of a cultural shift, really.
Yeah, that's a good point, Suzanne. Like intrinsic motivation, isn't it? Community members join the community out of intrinsic motivation to learn, rather than to get perhaps public recognition in the shape of a certificate or a qualification. Any other challenges? I felt sometimes perhaps it was a little bit difficult to keep the group together, because of commitments or other things that teacher educators have to do, and they leave the community perhaps a little bit too early, and kind of the community gets smaller and smaller, and I found that could we need to think about ways of motivating members to stay in the community and feel part of that community, so that they can work together as long as possible, because that was one of the issues with me. It was people dropping out of the community, which was a shame. Okay, so just to finish off, do we have any insights and reflections about this? I think one of them might be, can we lead a horse to water and make it drink? I think the answer to that is no, in my experience. But, and this is Zhenya's brilliant idea, was that yes, but we can make it thirsty. We can use the strategies and the tips and the strategies that we've been discussing here to motivate teacher educators to do work together, to do collaborate, to do stay on and work for the sake of their teachers and their students. So I think that's one thing I've learned.
Yeah, and sorry,
go on.
I do hope that this experience that, in my group has been going through will be motivating enough for them to try to support other future beginner e-moderators to deal with the emotional roller coasters they have been through during delivering their first course. So I do hope that this feeling will keep them together and try to get the other new e-moderators on board as well.
Yeah, kind of a similar vein. I'm hoping that sort of my community does stay in touch with each other, even if it's not all members, because they did build up a good relationship, and they were supportive of each other. And I think even if they continue that would be sort of a great help for them. I mean, some of them are quite experienced teacher educators, some of them were quite new to it. So, you know, they needed a bit of extra support, and to have those experienced voices there, I think would be a great help for them moving on.
Mm-hmm. And my hope is that the community will stay as a community after we end our official collaboration together. And that basically the educators will keep learning from what they're doing and from the people they're working with, as well as we are learning as engagement leads.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think for me, the main takeaway has been to have faith in the same way that we expect the community members to trust each other and to trust us. We also need to trust them. So I think it's for me, it's been a learning curve that way, is to have faith, because if it must happen, it will.
It will.
And that's the beauty of the community, is that when things do start happening, then you see that it's been worthwhile.
No matter how difficult it is at the beginning, it will be a success in the end, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for joining us on the panel discussion. I think it's been an interesting discussion for all. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Nelson, Doina, Zhenya, Suzanne, thank you so much for that. There was an enormous amount in there. I mean, really an enormous amount. We don't really have an awful lot of time to explore some of those things that you came up with in the panel. But expectations, for example, you know, obviously key to success. The process versus product discussion, the importance of theories and principles that are part of establishing communities of practice and group working at the outset. Your reflection on how to do things differently next time around, really, really important. And it's something that we're going to gather more feedback on to use for our planning for next year, and more of that later on in the session this afternoon. One of those themes that keeps coming up is about busy lives. And it's a reoccurring theme, isn't it? That being part of a group, does that help you to save time, or does it eat into your time for what you might think is more important? So really, you know, fundamental consideration in all of this. How do you manage your time in such a busy world that we live in? And a really important point that's coming from Tony. And I think it's something that we should definitely do, about capturing all of this experience. The symposium today is part of that. It's part of reflecting on, it's part of sharing, it's part of hearing about experiences of different people, different teacher educators within the community. And we need now to do some hard work in terms of capturing this so that it can be useful for guiding us in the future, but also for guiding other people who are involved in setting up communities of practice, making them work, etc. Nelson, Suzanne, or Doina, did you have any closing comments that you would like to mention at this stage before we move into the next session?
I don't think so. I'm just looking at some of the questions in the question and answer feed and just sort of typing a few answers.
I would just say that it's been a wonderful experience. That, as I said, I would love to go through again and again.
Okay. We will be able to get to some of these comments. The comment about the certificate, for example, is a really interesting one, and we can pick this up through the platform lobby, the main lobby area. This whole issue of motivation, that's either intrinsic or extrinsic, is such a huge area. We don't have time to broach that right now, but it's an ongoing discussion, isn't it? An ongoing question around motivation. So thank you so much indeed, dear engagement leads. Really fantastic presentation. Thank you so much. And we look forward very much to continuing collaborating with you next year, of course. Okay, that brings us then to the end of this session, and we will move straight into the next session. So we're going to close this one, and we will see you in the next session very shortly. Thank you so much. Bye for now.